Hi friends, welcome to Book a Day for Little Learners. Today we're going to read Dr. Seuss's Did I Ever Tell You How Lucky You Are? Look at his cute little character. When I was quite young and quite small for my size, I met an old man in the desert of dries, and he sang me a song I will never forget. At least, well, I haven't forgotten it yet. Have you ever been to the desert? I have. He sat in a terribly prickly place, but he sang with a sunny, sweet smile on his face. When you think things are bad, when you feel sour and blue, and you start to get mad, you should do what I do. Just tell yourself, Ducky, you're really quite lucky. Some people are much more, oh, ever so much more, oh, muchly, much, much more unlucky than you. Do you feel like you're a lucky person, lucky to have the family you have? Be glad you don't work on the Bungle Bung Bridge that they're building across Boober Bay at Bum Ridge. It's a troublesome world. All the people who are in it are troubled with troubles almost every minute. You ought to be thankful a whole heaping lot for the places and people you're lucky you're not. Look at all those people doing dangerous things. Just suppose, for example, you lived in Gazette and got caught in that traffic on Zat Highway 8. A lot of traffic. Or suppose, just for instance, you lived in Gazier with your bedroom up there and your bathroom up there. I don't think that would be enjoyable, do you, friends? Suppose, just suppose, you were poor Herbie Hart, who has taken his thromdimdulator apart. He never will get it together, I'm sure. He never will know if the gick or the gore fits into the scrux or the snucks or the snore. Yes, Ducky, you're lucky you're not Herbie Hart, who has taken his thromdimdulator apart. Think they work you too hard? Think of poor Allie Sardine. He has to mow grass in his uncle's backyard, and it's quick growing grass, and it grows as he mows it. The faster he mows it, the faster it grows, and all that his stingy old uncle will pay for his shoving that mower around in that hay is the piffulous pay of 2 ducalas a day. And Allie can't live on such piffulous pay. So, that's a big yard, friend. So, he has to paint flagpoles on Sundays in Grooves. How lucky you are that you don't live in his shoes. You see him painting up there? It's terrible. And poor Mr. Bix. Every morning at 6, poor Mr. Bix has his borfin to fix. Look at his borfin. It doesn't seem fair, it doesn't seem right, but his borfin just seems to go schlump every night. It schlumps in a heap, sadly needing repair. Bix figures it's due to the local night air. It takes them all day to unschlump it, and then the night air comes back, and it schlumps once again. So don't you feel blue. Don't get down in the dumps. You're lucky you don't have a borfin that schlumps. What do you think the borfin does? Do you think it makes something? If it works, do you think it makes something? And while we're at it, consider the schlots, the crumple-horn, web-footed, green-bearded schlots, whose tail is entailed with unsolvable knots. If he isn't much more worse off than you, I'll eat my umbrella. That's just what I'll do. That looks like it would be hard to untangle. And you're lucky indeed you don't ride on a camel. To ride on a camel, you sit on a whammel. Ooh. A whammel, you know, is sort of a saddle held on by a button that's known as a faddle. Right there. And boy, if your old whammel faddle gets loose, I'm telling you, Ducky, you're gone like a goose. And poor Mr. Potter, T-crosser, I-dotter, he has to cross T's and he has to dot I's in an I and T factory out in Van Nuys. Oh, these people the jobs people work at out west near Hawatch. There's a Hawatcher bee watcher. His job is to keep both his eyes on the lazy town bee, a bee that is watched till work harder you see. Well, he watched and he watched, but in spite of his watch, that bee didn't work any harder. Not much. So then somebody said, our old bee watching man just isn't bee watching as hard as he can. He ought to be watched by another hotcher. The thing that we need is a bee watcher. So, well, the bee watcher watched the bee watcher, and he didn't watch well. So another hotcher has come in as a watcher. And today all the hotchers who live in Hotch are watching on watching the watcher who's watching that bee. You're not a Hotch watcher. You're lucky, you see. Friends, that's like the Dr. Seuss riddle book we had to read, the twisty tongue one. And how fortunate you're not Professor DeBreeze, who has spent the past 32 years, if you please, trying to teach Irish ducks how to read Javanese. I don't even know what an Irish duck is. And think of the poor puffin Pugelhorn players who have to parade down the Pugelhorn stairs every morning to wake up the Prince of Pubukin. It's awful how often their pugels get broken. Oh, look, they have to ride on a unicycle. And oh, just suppose you were poor Harry Haddo. Try as he will, he can't make any shadow. Do you see him? No shadow. He thinks that perhaps something's wrong with his giz, and I think, by golly, there probably is. And the brothers Bazoo, the poor brothers Bazoo, suppose your hair grew like theirs happened to do. You think you're unlucky? I'm telling you, Ducky, some people are muchly, ever so muchly more unlucky than you. And suppose you lived in the forest in France, where the average young person just hasn't a chance to escape from the perilous pants-eating plants. But your pants are safe, you're a fortunate guy, and you ought to be shouting, "Ah, how lucky am I?" Look, so silly. You see his little bottom. And speaking of plants, you should be greatly gladish you're not Farmer Falkenberg's 7th radish. Let's see what the 7th radish, do you see it? It's about to be eaten. While the farmer sleeps and his cow sleeps. And you're so lucky you're not Gucky Gown, who lives by himself 90 miles out of town in the ruins of Ronk. Ronk is rather run down. There he is, hanging out in the pool. Maybe it's just rainwater, but it looks like a pool. And you're so lucky you're not a left sock left behind by mistake in the caverns of Croc. That's funny. Thank goodness for all the things that you are not. Thank goodness you're not something someone forgot and left all alone in some punkerish place like a rusty tin coat hanger hanging in space. Thank goodness you're not that. That's why I say, Ducky, don't grumble, don't stew. Some critters are much, ever so muchly more unlucky than you. Friends, that story is about counting your blessings, about being appreciative and thankful for what you have. I hope you enjoyed our story. Did I ever tell you how lucky you are? And I hope you know how lucky you are. I will see you tomorrow for another Dr. Seuss story. Until then.